Welcome on a Friday evening to another edition of the Off the Glass Basketball Podcast, the NBA Draft Recap Special. Harris Wishard here with Nick Fay. Nick, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Harris? I know we just had a great night last night. Ton of action in the NBA Draft. We even had a few trades go down. It was a pretty interesting night.
Well, first off, because this is our first time going on since the Golden State Warriors won the NBA championship, and we're not going to spend much time on that tonight. Just obviously a shout out to the Warriors organization. First time in 40 years, Andre Iguodala, the finals MVP. So it was really nice to see that team complete their dream season, winning 67 in the regular season, only losing, what was it, 4 times, maybe 5 times in the postseason. So it was just an amazing run that they put together, led by MVP there in the regular season, Stephen Curry. So shout out to the Warriors for their championship run.
Yeah, definitely shout out to the Warriors. They had a great season, and they even had an impact on the NBA draft. One of our writers, Tom Piccolo, read a great piece on how the Warriors style of play impacted the draft and the way teams are viewing players nowadays and how we're going towards positionless basketball.
Yeah, and with that being said, we are in New York. And everybody's a GM today. Everybody is an owner. Everybody knows what they're talking about. So I'm prefacing this by saying I'm no expert. I don't think we either of us consider ourselves experts or GMs or whatnot. We just love basketball. We talk on the podcast. You know, I played a little bit in school, but I would never consider myself somebody who could say this is an amazing pick. This is a terrible pick. And just some Knicks fans that are frustrated with what went down last night. And I could maybe understand from the standpoint of, and Stephen A. Smith acted foolish, I think. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, he's over-exaggerating. I mean, no offense to Stephen A. Smith. A lot of time nowadays, I feel like he's just creating noise.
Yeah, and listen, I understand if you're a frustrated Knicks fan, we're going with the European. We're going with a guy that's not a proven commodity in the United States. But listen up. I called this. I was frustrated at the time, but I've had a chance to look at this now. This was, to me, Phil Jackson saying, Melo, you're not what you think you are. We have time to build this thing, and we're not going to make impulse decisions based off Melo's 3-year, 4-year prime stretch. And I think this is a long-term project. In Porzingis, I don't know how you feel about the pick, but he's a big guy. He's 7'1". He seems to be moving pretty well. I don't know what this guy is going to be, if he's the next Darko Milicic or he's the next Dirk Nowitzki. I don't know. But it certainly doesn't help when your best player's not behind it. And Melo's done this several times. He's complained about the Lynn situation, about this pick, about this move. Instead of just taking the kid under his wing and saying, listen, man, I can help you. I've been doing in this league for a while. What are your initial impressions, of the pick and Melo's reaction and attitude towards it?
Well, first, I just wanted to touch on the fact, like you said, we're not all everyone tries to act like a GM. These scouts and these GMs have put in weeks of watching tape on these players. They know a lot better than we do, so you have to trust them a little bit. But like you said, this is a good pick. A lot of people who know basketball thought this was a great pick. Yeah, it doesn't help the Knicks long term, but they were, I think, a 17-win team. It's going to be hard to turn it around in one season. This is a good move. I think that he'll turn into a great player. He just needs time. You can't rush him. And a lot of Knicks fans are going to be upset this year because we all know the international players usually take around a year to adjust to the NBA game. There's usually different sized balls, different three-point line, just overall different style of play. So I think the verdict on him won't be out for a few years, but he definitely has loads of talent. He's 7'3", he's mobile, he's a sharpshooter, and he has some post moves. Obviously, the guy needs to eat some food. He needs to bulk up a little bit. Like I mentioned to one of my friends, first thing I'd be doing would take him out to New York City and getting him a bite to eat because he definitely needs a bulk up for the NBA. That's the only thing I'd really say is a big flaw about him.
It's not easy at that size to be that big. So, and sometimes some guys have struggled to put on weight. He's clearly agile. I mean, he doesn't seem to be that, for lack of a better word, doofy in his movements that I've seen. So that was the number 4.
He looks athletic.
He does. So we don't know yet. I think Knicks fans they're just so pessimistic because as a group, over the last 15 years, they haven't had anything to be excited about since the late 90s, early 2000s. So for the last 15 years, this is a fan base that has been starving for some playoff action. and they got it in 2013, lost in the second round, and completely rebuilt that group, the 54-win group. And Melo's probably sitting here thinking, listen, I don't have 8 years left. I have 3. I have 4. I have 5 at the most. And this attitude of I can't make other guys better has been following him around his whole career. I don't think he's a bad player, Carmelo. I don't think he's an amazing player, but I think he's a very good player. And I think if he took on the mindset of, hey, I could help this kid. Let me see what we could do with this. Like, everybody out here is a pro, man. He acts like, I feel like at times that he's above and beyond, and he's not. So I would love to see, like LeBron, for instance, and I hate to make the comparison, or even a Durant, or even a Harden. I think other superstars in the league would take a better approach with this and try to make this kid maybe and reach his full ceiling. He's 7-1. So I think there's been overreaction. Stephen A's not helping. Carmelo's not helping. I think New York has to calm down today.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, Carmelo needs to help him out, and this kid can really help Melo out. If you think about it, he's a stretch 4. He'll open up the paint for Melo if he develops his game correctly, and he could be a great asset for the Knicks. Obviously, he might not have an instant impact, but most rookies aren't going to come in and be a star player anyways. They're going to take at least a year or 2 to develop. And let's take a look at it. I mean, Okafor, Towns, and Russell are all off the board. Yeah, they could have went with Mundy, but a lot of people said he wasn't a great fit for the triangle and he lacks a jump shot. So they take a little bit of a project. It might take a little bit longer, but a lot of scouts and GMs have noted that he might be the #1 talent in the whole entire draft. So right. I think Knicks fans need to take a chill pill and just enjoy the pick, and they need to be patient. If they want a good team and they want to have a stable organization and win for a long time, it takes time. You just can't expect to have a quick fix and then everything to be better, and then next thing you know, you're winning a championship. It just doesn't work like that.
There are guys that are on the board that behind them, and the Knicks haven't had success in the draft for the last 15 years either. They've had a couple picks here and there. They got David Lee at good value at the end of the first round. Nate Robinson at the end of the first round wasn't a bad pick. So they've had a couple of okay picks. But when they're up top, and Gallinari wasn't an awful pick when they took him because they got the asset for Melo. So I don't know. I think there's just skepticism overall when you take a guy like this. There was a guy like Justice Winslow available. There was a guy like Cauley Stein, guys that might have an impact next year. And like you said, long term, this could be the better option. But let's talk about D'Angelo Russell, who went #2 to the Lakers. Your impression on the fact that they passed up on Okafor and went for the star guard from Ohio State?
Well, I heard a lot of people, in my opinion, too. I could see Russell being the best player in this draft. I feel like he just has that it factor. A lot of people have questioned his athleticism, but in the tournament, he just shows you that he wants to win. He's a great passer. He can shoot. He's just a fluid basketball player. And I think one thing that it definitely really points to is the Lakers feel confident they'll land a big man this summer. I watched an interview prior to the draft with Mitch Kupchak of the Lakers, and he really noted that he thought the Lakers would land a big guy this free agency, and there was a lot more good big men than there were good point guards. So I think this Russell pickup was a nice move.
Well, and it shook up the draft a little bit. For a second, you thought maybe the Sixers would pass up on Okafor. Does this tell you a lot about their I would say maybe their plan with Embiid and that center and what's he going to be like next year? Because with Noel and Okafor now, you got a serious front court.
Yeah, I think this talks about a little bit of Embiid. Like, they didn't mention a lot about his injury because if you didn't know, he re-injured his ankle or foot the last few months. So there was a setback. And it was noted today that there's a chance that Embiid might have to miss substantial time this season again. So the Okafor pick might work out fine. I mean, the Sixers are building up assets. I mean, no one really knows what Sam Hinkie's doing. So just let him do that. And I guess Okafor is probably the best player available at the time. And the asking price to trade up in the draft, it seemed like, was way too much for a lot of teams.
So sometimes the draft tells us a lot about free agency, which guys aren't allowed to officially sign until the 8th, but that will start on the 1st. And I guess we'll talk more free agency on our next show, which you had planned on being next week. So when we get to our free agency show, we'll get into more of who will be doing what, but just more on the draft. And I thought another interesting selection was when the Hornets went towards Frank Kaminsky in the first round. I think he has an opportunity to be a little bit better than people giving him credit for. I don't think he'll be an all-star, but I think that might be a solid addition to a Charlotte team that might have an opportunity next year. Kemba coming back, Al Jefferson. Maybe speak about the Hornets a little bit.
Yeah, the Hornets have made a lot of moves the last few days. I think they made 3 or 4 trades. They picked up Nicholas Batum. They traded away Lance Stevenson, and they got Frank Kaminsky. One thing, though, about the Hornets. They turned down 6 picks from the Celtics yesterday for the 9th pick. They're offering up to 6 picks and I think multiple first-round picks again in that 9th spot. But the Hornets wanted none of it, and they really wanted Frank the Tank. So I think that says a little bit about how hard it was to trade up in the draft and about the Hornets' faith they have in Kaminsky.
Yeah, and also the Kentucky group, I think, the second Harrison twin wasn't drafted. So with Calipari there and Towns going 1, Cauley Stein going 6, Trey Lyles went 12 to the Jazz. 12 to the Jazz. And then they had Booker. They had back-to-back players go 12 and 13. So there were four Kentucky players taken in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the second round, I think 2 more. So there were 6 of that group. The second Harrison twin does not get drafted. Which one did? Andrew Harrison to Memphis via the Suns, 44 in the second round. And then Dakari Johnson centers 48 to the Thunder. So 6 Kentucky Wildcat player get drafted. That ties a record. Now, we've spoken about this at length, about the college system, the NBA system, Calipari, how it's an NBA factory, maybe ruining the college game. But what are your thoughts on 6 guys from one school?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome. They had quite an amount of players drafted. I think it talks about Calipari and what he does, and a lot of players just believe in him and the system that he runs, and he's going to set them up to have an NBA career. Even though the other Harrison twin wasn't drafted, I think he already has a summer league invite. I can't recall what team it was from, but he definitely already got picked up. So I think it really helps that program in general. They're just able to, if you see that their players are getting drafted in the first round, second round, or all making it to the NBA, you'll feel confident picking them as a school to play for.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I talk about Calipari is that he has a system where if you want to average 25 points a game, you're not going to go there.
Yeah.
So Stephen Curry was allowed to blossom at Davidson, and other players were allowed to blossom at other schools over the last few years that did not play at Kentucky. And this is why I trust John Calipari and NBA guys. He's setting them up to be unselfish. And we know what wins in the NBA. Unselfish players can win. We saw it with the Warriors. At times, selfishness can win. We know it can. But for the most part, you have to understand a role. And what better place to do it than start at Kentucky, understand it's like an NBA roster. This kid Towns is special, man. I think defensively he's special. I think Minnesota is on the rise when they get a guy like this because he's going to be an enforcer. The Western Conference is a beast. We know that. But I think it's a great start in Karl Anthony Towns, pairing him with Wiggins. And then they have the kid Tyus Jones, the hometown kid. They had a couple moves interesting last night. But just with Kentucky and Calipari's attitude, he instills the team before the last name on the back of the jersey. That's going to bode well for these guys in the NBA. And it already has. John Wall, Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, Eric Bledsoe, the list goes on. Calipari has his name all over the NBA right now.
He does have his name all over the NBA. And I like to touch on the Towns pick. I thought it was a great pick. And like you mentioned, you don't get to blossom as much as Kentucky. And I think in his workouts, Towns was able to display a little bit more of his skills. I even heard that he has a pretty good 3-point shot that he showed in the Laker workout. So it'd be interesting to see how Towns does. And I think the Timberwolves are just set up great. They have Levine. You said they picked up Tyus Jones, Andrew Wiggins, now Towns, and they have a few other nice pieces over there. Definitely a fun league pass team to watch this upcoming season.
And we'll be tuned in. I know you cannot wait for all of this to take place, to watch this unfold with you. It's been awesome, and especially the draft last night and free agency coming up. We were excited about last year, and I think the talent just keeps pouring into this league. And even though the style of play has changed, and that's another thing that I think people have to be aware of. I think with the style of play being different, and Colin Cowherd today, another guy I have to call out, and I would call into a show and tell him the same thing. He was complaining about the way the Warriors play. They won a championship. He was complaining about this pick. The bruiser mentality is not the NBA anymore. Let's be honest. I mean, I would love to see people maybe be a little tougher, but finesse wins in this league now. The Spurs are finesse. Nothing says nitty gritty like the San Antonio Spurs don't exactly represent the Pistons of the 80s. So this league right now is a finesse, as you would say, stretch, perimeter driven league that if you have a couple great defensive players, you'll win. So, and you have a good defensive team, you win. So to complain about some of these picks, and I know I'm focusing on Porzingis today, but there are other players that are taken, maybe a Frank Kaminsky, I know there are other players that have been toughness has been questioned. Cameron Payne, the guard from Murray State, is not a physical player. But I think that physicalness, not to say it doesn't exist, but the NBA is continuously evolving into a showman. I mean, I don't say showmanship, but it's evolving into a place where I don't think maybe some past players saw it going.
Yeah, I agree. Like I mentioned, the article by Tom Piccolo was great. He mentioned a lot of this, positionless basketball. Just the players are it's a lot of small ball, and the league's getting faster, quicker, more athletic, and the big guys just don't have a spot because some of these guys are able to play multiple positions, guard multiple positions, and have versatile games where they're able to shoot the ball, dribble the ball, play defense, and it's about speed. So I think even just in the fact that someone like Okafor might have gone number one in previous draft just because teams were looking for such a low post presence and a post player like him to get you points inside. But I think Towns going number one even talks about how the NBA is just going towards quicker, more athletic players and that small ball style of play.
Absolutely. And we saw the Cavs adjust to the Warriors. Do you think there's a problem with maybe a Phil Jackson or other guys that may want to say, okay, my style can win, and they might be a little stubborn in the fact that I always thought like the old dog in the room has to learn new tricks in order to be considered relevant. Is there a sense of stubbornness with some guys in evolving to what the NBA is becoming?
I think you always have some coaches. I mean, you have some guys who don't want to even follow analytics and some guys who just want to stick to that physical style of play. I think, like you said, you have to adjust to the league. If everyone's playing small ball and you can't match up, you're going to get abused, especially if you can't defend the other team. Yeah, you might be scoring 2 points in the paint every time, but the other team, like the Warriors, is launching threes and they're shooting a good percentage and you can't get out to the line to defend them. You're in trouble.
I don't know if you watched how much of March Madness you watched, but good story here. R.J. Hunter, the kid, Georgia State mid-major player, hit that shot in March Madness. And you know I'm a big mid-major guard fan because I played at a very small school, Division III. So to see mid-major Division I players, especially guards, get drafted, I was happy for him. Great story with his dad, who was the coach at Georgia State. The Celtics take a shot at him at 28. I don't know how much you've seen of him, but any thoughts on R.J. Hunter?
Actually, I watched a good amount of R.J. Hunter. I really liked him. I was really hoping that he'd fall to the Nets. Because he just is a shooter. He hit that big shot. Like you said, he had that nice moment with his dad afterwards.
Right.
And so I think that he could have a nice NBA career. He just knows how to score buckets, and that's something that's important. He's long and lanky, and his dad's a coach. I mean, a coach's kid is usually one of the best players on the team. He knows how to play. He has a high basketball IQ. He's not going to cause problems. So I think that was probably one of the Celtics' better picks. The other picks kind of were questionable, drafting point guards. Now they have I don't even know how many point guards on the roster. I think it talks about they're definitely going to try to move Marcus Smart, maybe Avery Bradley or somebody to clear up some space and some playing time on that roster.
I like the Sam Dekker pick, the kid from Wisconsin from the Rockets. I mean, obviously inside with Dwight Howard being a question mark, but I did think they lost something with giving up Chandler Parsons. And I'm not saying Decker's the next Parsons, but I think he will help them on the perimeter next year.
Yeah, they have similar games. Dekker, like I've looked at some of his scouting reports, he's not necessarily great in one aspect, but he's good in a lot of aspects. He's a good all-around player. He's a nice fit for that team. That 6'7", 6'9", like wing player that can maybe play the 3 or the 4 because they go small a lot. He can shoot threes, space the floor, and like you said, he'll be kind of a good replacement for Chandler Parsons.
Yeah, and like I said, the Rockets, it
was good value considering how he was supposed to go a lot higher.
The difference between, and I hate to continue to point to the Knicks situation, but look at a team like the Rockets. Harden is going to make this kid better. I mean, playing with Harden, playing with Howard. I'm not a huge Howard fan, but during the regular season at least, I think Dekker is one of those guys that could have went higher, and he fell into a very good situation in Houston.
One of my favorite players in the NFL actually is good friends with Sam Dekker, Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And he faced a similar situation. He was supposed to go higher in the draft, and he ended up falling down. He texted him during the draft. He said, look at it this way. Instead of playing for a lottery team, you're going to go to a playoff contender, which is so true. He's going to have a chance to play probably some decent minutes off the bench, and he could have an impact in his first year. I really like his game, and I'm kind of surprised he fell to 19.
Yeah, 18. Yeah, the Knicks. 18. But, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, think about it this way. It's a system thing. The NBA is about systems and egos. I say it all the time. Can you fit a system? Can you drop your ego? And systems and egos, and this kid is probably not going to have much of an ego as a rookie, but a team like the Spurs, you feel confident that whoever goes to the Spurs is going to tremendously benefit from being around those great players. Like when the Spurs take a chance on a Katie Lalane, a 55th pick from UMass, or anybody else that they acquired. I think they also acquired a European player, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not exactly sure. But
he's a center. I think they drafted. He'll probably stay across seas for one more year.
Right, exactly. So just you have confidence in that could work because of the environment, because of the coaching staff, because of the players. And I think that's a similar situation for Dekker. He goes into a winning situation. He comes from Wisconsin. They had just lost the national championship game to Duke. So I feel really good about him in Houston. I think that's going to be an interesting piece. I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing 15, 20 minutes a game just because if you think about it, Pablo Prigioni and Jason Terry were getting minutes on this team last year. And I know that Beverly was hurt, but I could see Dekker playing a role on this team next year.
Yeah, I think he's kind of the player like I imagine in the Houston Rockets style of play. He plays a little defense. He has a nice offensive game. He can get to the rim. He can finish. He can shoot threes. He can pass the ball. So I think I just like the fit in Houston for him.
Right. So did the Heat get a steal in Justice Winslow at 10?
I think they did. A lot of teams were worried about Winslow's outside shooting, but I think that he's just a competitor. You know, he just comes to play for Duke. He just had a lot of great moments in the tournament, and he just is a versatile player. I think Pat Riley compared him to Draymond Green a little bit with his versatility. Coming from Pat Riley, that means a lot. So I think that he probably is a steal for them, and he could turn out good long as he can develop his jump shot.
Yeah, and I mean, there are three guys, Okafor from Duke, Winslow from Duke, Jones from Duke. They also had three guys in the first round and nobody in the second round. So three national champions. Tyus Jones now, interesting. I thought he would play with LeBron. He's now going to Minnesota. Can you see him having an impact in his rookie season?
In Minnesota, I think that he could, especially Rubio has a tendency to get injured a lot. So I feel like that Jones could see some nice minutes, especially with that young team. And he's another player that I think just wants to win. He just has that factor that you just see in players that they just get big buckets. I think he had some nice moments for Duke in the tournament, especially in the championship game. So I like that pick. He's another guy I was kind of hoping would fall to the Nets, but he ended up going a few picks before.
Yeah, and I think he's a gamer. And
yeah, exactly.
Coming off, if Rubio starts, he'll make an impact. They have some talent. I wouldn't call them a playoff team next year, but I think they're building something similar to like in New Orleans where they're young and they have an opportunity over the next couple of years to sneak in. But I wouldn't call them a playoff team next year.
Yeah, I would say maybe 2 to 3 years down the road, they can definitely develop. Wiggins already showed some great promise last season, Levine, and then you get just Towns, and they already have some nice pieces around there. So it'd be nice to see the Timberwolves get into the playoffs. And one thing they do have is KG mentoring these players. I know KG is kind of crazy, but he is a professional, and he teaches these guys how to practice and work hard every single day. And he's not going to really take any trash.
Of course. And do you think that the pick of a point guard for the Thunder says anything about the future of Russell Westbrook?
Not necessarily, because I think at times it could suit Russell to maybe play a little bit of two guard and have someone set.
Probably a more natural position for him.
Yeah, especially the way he drives to the rim, and it kind of just like takes a little bit off of his back because, you know, he's had to handle the ball a lot. Kevin Durant will be back, and maybe it'll help both of them kind of take the ball out of their hands and allow Payne to set these two up because he is maybe one of the best floor generals in the draft.
Without question, and I just heard a lot of good things about his game. Again, mid-major, Murray State, so I'm not going to say I have any bias, but I like the guards that could play for 4 years. I don't know how many years he played in college, a few. I think 3, maybe 4. But those guys that play extensive minutes, have the ball in their hands, develop the confidence, it's just it just makes me think that he's ready for the next level, similar to like maybe a Damian Lillard and all those guys that played at mid-major, Nash and Curry. If you play 35, 40 minutes a night, if you play for 3 or 4 years and you develop, mid-major guards are definitely looked at more seriously, I think, than they were, I would say, earlier in the draft, maybe 80s, 90s.
Yeah, and I liked his interview after the draft. I mean, he was like, he definitely has a chip on his shoulder, and he said, I have no ceiling. So it just tells you that he thinks the sky's the limit, and he's going to work at his game and try to be the best possible player that he can be. And no team doesn't want a player like that.
Absolutely. So let's go through some guys that, and if there are any other picks that we haven't talked about, and just to wrap up our draft special, we'll be talking NBA all season all along. Our goal is to be coming on once a week, as Nick has spoken to me about. and just giving you updates all the way throughout free agency. So if we didn't touch on anything today, we'll have a more interactive show for free agency. We'll bring on some writers again. We'll have some tweets again. Today was just kind of our day to recap what we saw yesterday and get it up on the site. So just recapping, are there anything for you that stuck out as a Nets fan? You know anything about Chris McCullough, Jerry and Grant? We didn't get into too much, and is a Knicks pick. And also maybe a guy like, Moutier we talked a little bit about, but Booker, I'm trying to think of other guys. I'm looking at the list now. But any other guys that stuck out for you?
I mean, I actually like the Nets move. I know they traded Mason Plumlee, who was pretty highly regarded at midseason, but he kind of fell off towards the end of the season. And it was apparent that him and Brook Lopez couldn't coexist. So the Nets moved him and their second-round pick for Hollis Jefferson and Steve Blake, which I think Hollis Jefferson is going to be a great player. I like the comparison to Andre Iguodala. He definitely needs to develop his jump shot, but that's definitely what the Nets need. They need a defensive player who's athletic, who can guard all four, can guard 1 through 4, and he just gives a lot of energy to the team. He kind of is a gritty player. It's something that the Nets don't have, and they really
Nets needed some athleticism.
Exactly.
They needed a wing. You know how I feel about Brook. Did he opt out of his contract?
He did opt out, but last night the Nets have mentioned, and today Adrian Wojnarowski came out with a report that it looks like he'll probably resign. The Nets are pretty confident about it.
So looks like he'll resign, but I just feel like they need to get more agile, more gritty, tougher, and the kid definitely does it for them. My one knock on the Nets is like they rely on 3 guys that could be hurt on any given night.
Exactly.
Duran, Joe, and Brook. And Brook, we know he struggled with his health. Duran, we know he's been hot and cold, and Joe Johnson's prime is behind him. So if the Nets are going to take that next step next year, this kid might be a reason why. I think he can make an impact right away.
Yeah, he definitely can. I think he'll definitely see minutes right away because the Nets, Markel Brown kind of stepped up, a second-round pick from last year to play some good defense, but he's a smaller guard, and this guy gives him a real solid wing defender. I'm not saying he's going to shut down LeBron, but if you ever want to win the East, you need to have someone who can probably give LeBron a hard time. And this kid already has an NBA body, and he's proven he can defend the point guard to the power forward. I know he's guarded, I think, some of the best point guards in the draft, and he even guarded Frank the Tank against Wisconsin. So I definitely see some promise, and I just want him to develop his offensive game a little bit more.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, I know it's premature because I love my guy Jordan Clarkson over there in LA, but it seems like they don't have as much faith in him as I do with the Russell pick, although I think they could play off each other a little bit. If you had to say today as we wrap up, and again, great show, great recap for the draft, who is your NBA Rookie of the Year for 2016?
This is a tough one. I'm going to go with Russell because I think he's going to see a good amount of playing time. Brian Scott did mention he thinks Clarkson and him could play together, but I also could see the Lakers possibly trading Clarkson for DeMarcus Cousins. So I think Russell's going to see some good time. He's going to play with probably Kobe Bryant and another big-time star, either power forward or center, so that'll probably help him out. I just like Russell's game. I don't know. I just got that feeling from him that he's going to be a good player. I think Okafor, just Philadelphia, doesn't really help his cause. And then for Towns, I just feel that he probably just needs maybe a year or two to get to that next level where he's going to have a great impact.
Well, with Kobe in LA and Clarkson and them and Kobe kind of on his last straw, I think Russell is going to be a great, great player. But I think Towns is going to have more of an impact because Towns is going to bring out the best in Wiggins, and Wiggins won the award last year. And I think for me, Okafor with Noel is going to be a little tough. So if you look at those top 3 guys, I think Towns has the best year. I think maybe Russell has the best career. It's obviously so early to say, but if I had to make a pick, I'd say Karl Anthony Towns, Rookie of the Year. Timberwolves win that back-to-back, but I could easily see Russell getting it. But again, wrapping up now, pleasure to be on with you again. It's been a little bit. Again, congratulations to the Warriors and congratulations to all of the young men who were drafted last night and their dreams becoming a reality. It's a great experience for them, and it's a great time for them. And the next time we go on, Nick, I can confirm with you, will probably be next Friday talking free agency.
It will be. Next Friday we'll be talking free agency, and we should have a ton of rumors to tell you about. And just to throw this out there, my dark horse for the Rookie of the Year would be Emmanuel Mundi on Denver. I think that'll work out great. And also, thanks everyone for listening, and enjoy the NBA offseason.
And I want to throw my dark horse in there too is Justice Winslow, because I think with Wade being banged up, he could have a much bigger impact than people think. I think it's a great organization for him to go to, so I think Justice will have a very good year.
Agreed. And there's a possibility Luol Deng could be moved as well. So, all right, Harris, have a great night, and great show. Thank you, everyone.
I'll talk to you guys soon.